Today I'm going to show you how to change the starter in a 2005 Mitsubishi Galant. This is the 4-cylinder 2.4 liter engine. Here are the tools that you will need. On here, you got your oxygen sensor here, and there was another oxygen sensor right there that I took out already because you have to take it's sealed off, and so you have to take one off. So that's the only way you can get this heat shield off. So once we get the heat shield off, so I didn't have to. I tried to take this one out, but because of all the corrosion and stuff, it's really hard to get out. So I got the first heat shield off. The next thing we're going to have to do is we're going to have to take this other heat shield off in the back down here. You can see that it's going to go in, I believe it goes in down here. I'm not positive. So, that's where I'm at. Break. Alright, so it turns out, looks like I have to take off this manifold here. Because this metal plate here, which is the heat shield, I can't get that out because it's, as you can see, it's blocked on both sides here by this manifold. I can't. I've tried different variations to try to get this to come out, and it's just not coming out. So this is going to have to come off. Alright, so I'm having to take the exhaust manifold off, and what I used was to break loose all the corrosion. You can see the corrosion on those nuts right there, and those actually were a 14mm socket, and you'll need the deep socket. On the bottom side, you've got two 14mm sockets. Right here you've got, this is the 14mm, and then over here to the side you'll see that one's a 17mm socket, and you'll probably want to use the short extension on there with the deep socket, and it takes a little bit to break it, so I use that PVC pipe there. It's a 3/4 inch opening to put on the end there for leverage, and so that's how we'll be able to get to that starter. And so once you get these loosened up, and then you can take those off, you should this manifold thing should come right off with the catalytic converters attached to it. Okay, so as you can see, the exhaust manifold's off, and see I've got it placed right there. Have to get a new gasket kit for that, so you'll need to get that. And then right here's their starter, and there's two bolts. There's a bolt right here, and then there's another bolt right down here that you're going to take off. This will come off. This connects your this connects the power. So you pull these off, and then okay, so this here took a 12mm wrench to unscrew this. You want to pull these wires off before you start to unscrew that, because you don't want to break these wires or mess it, because they kind of get in the way when you're trying to unscrew it. And now the replacement one I have takes a 13mm wrench for this particular nut. So it'll just depend. You'll have to, make sure you have your good metric set of tools with you, because it seems like everything I've had to use so far has been metric. Okay, so it turns out, looks like I'm going to have to move this out of the way to get to this bolt. It's just too hard to get in there. So this has got a, so I'm taking these two bolts off. There's one more on the back side. So I moved this out of the way, and I've braced it here with a piece of wood to kind of keep it out of my way. I'm using, couldn't really get a socket in there, so I have to use an open end wrench. As you can see, it's slow and laborious, but it is coming off. And then I'll work on this one here too. And once that comes off, I'll show you what the new one is like going in. Okay, I just finished unscrewing the last one, and I'm taking the old one out. You can see it's very similar to the other one. And they are side by side. They match up quite well. The other thing we'll do is we'll take this one back because there's a core fee, and we'll get our $54 core fee back. And then we'll also have them test this starter just to verify that it was bad. Okay, here's the new starter. I've taken the old bolts out. One of the things you want to do is test and make sure that the bolts go in easily. Alright, so you can see I've got the new one in. I don't have the wires hooked up yet, but this is going to go on here, this is going to go on here, and then I'm going to clip that back into place. I've still got to hand tighten the top screw right up there. I've already hand tightened the bottom screw. Once we get those in, we'll tighten it all down. We'll put this piece, bolt it back down, and then I have to go get some shims, new replacement shims for the manifold, and we'll get replacement shims for that, and for down there as well. Mount that back on, hook up the oxygen sensors, and start her up. If you're fortunate enough to have a 10-year-old son who can get his small little hands in there to tighten that down for you, you can do that like I'm doing here. So he's helping me out. Okay, I have installed the new starter, hooked up the cables, hooked up the other cable, and now I will start putting the rest of the car back together. So now I'm putting the heat shield back on. One item to take note of is that when you go to put the exhaust manifold back on, you'll see that there is, take these out, you'll see there's 4, this is for the 4th screw. What you'll want to do is you'll want to screw this one in first, because it's harder because that pipe gets in the way, and so you'll screw this one on first, and then you'll do these other 3. You're going to want to get a new set of gaskets. Get a new set of gaskets. I'm going to kind of clean up around the area there. I'm going to use some steel wool, and then I'm also using a shop vac. I'm not going to run the shop vac while I'm doing the video because it's so loud, but you know, get some steel wool or something just to kind of clean this up so that the shim's they'll seal nicely around there, and the seals will all be nice and tight. I was able to get the top gasket, but this bottom is called the exhaust pipe flange gasket, and it goes right there. And I'm gonna have to reuse the old one. So what you're gonna want to do is make sure this is really clean. Use steel wool to clean it, like I said before. And then I got this real high temperature gasket maker. It goes up to 700 degrees. And it's oxygen sensor safe, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some of this to the gasket itself to help make sure there's a really good seal there. You have to make sure there's a good seal there because the oxygen sensors after the catalytic converter, if it's sucking air, it may get some bad readings and start throwing warnings and things like that. So, okay, so I'm going to be applying the gasket stuff on here. And this particular stuff is supposed to be safe for oxygen sensors as well. One thing I wanted to add is when you're tightening those screws, don't over tighten them. You just want them tight and just kind of snug on there. So once you get them, you feel they're tight, just a little bit more, maybe a quarter of a turn, and they'll be tight enough. And so what we're going to do is we're going to install one of the sensors, because it's one on the right, it's easier to do it without the shield on. Then the other one, the one on the left, we'll install it after we get the shield in. So now see, I got that other oxygen sensor put in, and I fed the heat shield around it. And see, now we can put that sensor on, and we'll put this one on. As you can see, I reused the old oxygen sensors, and the reason is this particular car, 2005 Mitsubishi Galant, has 4 sensors. There's 2 upstream and 2 downstream sensors, and each one of those sensors is about $100 a piece, $98 or so. And so there's no, unless they're bad, there's no reason to replace them. So now we're going to put the heat shield bolts back on. And there's these, if you remember, there's 2 at the top here, and there's 2 down a little farther. I think there's one right here, and there's one on the other side. Okay, just about done here. One of the things I noticed was when I was hooking up the oxygen sensors that the connectors match. So gray goes to gray, black goes to black. Same on the other side. Gray goes to gray, black goes to black. The last thing we have to do is we reconnect the negative battery cable. Okay, so I have replaced the starter in this car. I hope this helps someone else out there. Look forward to the next project.